Tom Campbell here. If you find something of significant value in our videos, please consider supporting their production through our Patreon account or through a one-time donation. The links are in the description below. Thank you and enjoy the video.
Well, good afternoon, Tom. I'd like your audience to know that, well, they do know that you have a lot of video content on your channel, and we do get a lot of questions on that. So I'd like to make sure they know about a special video search engine tool that our volunteer team has put together for them. And that's where you can search any keywords or phrases. Would you like to talk a little bit about that and how that might answer some of their questions?
Well, yes, Donna, I would love to talk about that. We have this really nice tool that helps people find what they want to know, what they're interested in the thousands of hours that I have out there and the hundreds and hundreds of videos that I have out there. This tool was generated. We didn't buy it. It's not software we bought. This is software that was generated custom build just for us. And it was done all by volunteers. We have a lot of things like that. We have a large volunteer audience. And this volunteer audience basically is made up of people who've read the books, watched the videos, and have gotten so much out of them and feel more in control, I guess, of themselves and their life, that they just want to give back. They want to do something to help spread this word that love is the answer. That's a big idea. And in the world we live in, that's an important idea that more people need to come to. So we have all these volunteers who help. And we have Titi Nordering, who's from Sweden, and she runs this whole organization. She and a half dozen other people, that help her out, but she's kind of the key person. And there's lots of different places that the volunteers help. There's probably 20 different categories, all sorts of areas where the volunteers are working. And this tool is just one of the things, just one of the many things that they've put together. And to support this tool, there was probably 50 or 60 volunteers, maybe more, engaged in timestamping, because every video had to be sorted by subject, and whether or not that subject was just a mention or whether it was the defining, discussion of that subject, and then rating that piece of video for how important it was for that subject, or maybe another subject. So there could be maybe two subjects that contained in that piece of video. So we had all these people watched every minute of all of those thousands of hours. That's why it needed so many people. They had to break it up into pieces. And they timestamped all of it. And they're still timestamping all the things that we do. You and I put out a video probably one a week on the average, sometimes more. And they timestamp every one of those so that it goes into this search tool.
I have to say that Justin and Greg are truly brilliant for having developed this search tool for all of your videos. This is a way to utilize all of the information. It's impossible to be able to pick that out just by, watching videos.
Yes, it's very intimidating to say, gee, I really like to understand this. And then you go to my website and there's 1,000 hours of video, and where is a discussion about this? And trying to find it would be very frustrating. So this helps that. And we have, I don't know if I mentioned or not, but we have made changes to it. The tool keeps getting better as time goes on. Justin, who was the head programmer there, he's tweaked it a little bit and made it work a little better. He's made it a little more general, a little more accurate in finding your information. So it keeps getting better as we go. So we have so many categories that I'd like also to say while we're discussing this, that if you want to volunteer, if anybody out here is listening to this, our main idea here was to help advertise this tool because it's been changed, it's been upgraded, and we want people to know that it's there. But also, if you have a feeling that you'd like to contribute, that you'd like to give back some, that you've gotten enough out of MBT that you'd like to give some back and be helpful, well, you need to get in touch with TT, who runs this organization for me. And you can do that by going to mbtvolunteers@gmail.com. That's mbtvolunteers, all one word, @gmail.com. So if you go there, and if you tell TT, you know, what your skills are, what you're interested in, what you're willing to do, how much time you have, et cetera, then she'll find some sort of place for you where you can be helpful. Right now, I think that TD is looking for people in social media. You know, so if you know something about social media, you know, how to get around in social media, if you're particularly good at interacting with social media and you understand that, that would be helpful. Administration, again, you have 50 or 60, 100 volunteers, you need some administration, you need some people to help manage and help communicate. So those are two areas I know they're looking at now. I think particularly the online marketing and the social media. Those are two big areas that they'd like to find some expertise in. So,
and as far as the online media goes, if you're adept at posting and you're also into MBT, you can get into conversations with people and help promote and spread the word through that social media. There's a special art to that. There's so many things that are needed as well. We have translation teams that translate works and videos into foreign languages. There are graphic artists. These are all professionals that are volunteering their time, and it's really great.
Yeah. Matter of fact, the graphic artists have just helped us come up with a new MBT logo. You know, we have that just finished, I guess, I don't know, a month or so ago. You know, we just got that done. It's a really neat symbol that it's one of those things that when you look at it different ways, you know, you let your eyes focus or defocus a little bit, the picture changes. You see one thing, and then you see a different thing, and then you see something else. And it's made up of one line that actually traces the whole thing. So if you trace it, you have a line that comes back to where you started. So like a circle, you know, it's whole. It's complete.
That's an interesting feature. That's almost like a meditation in itself.
Yeah, it's a neat thing. It's a bit of a fractal. It's not precisely a fractal, you know, but it has fractal properties to it. That is, the whole thing is made from hexagons. It's just a bunch of hexagons. It starts out with 6 larger hexagons, you know, they get put relative to each other. And then those hexagons interact with each other, which makes more things. And so it's really built out of hexagons, simple hexagons. And that makes it kind of fractal, you know, because the whole thing ends up being a big hexagon. And all of its pieces are hexagons as it expands. And of course, you know, in Tom's Park, we have a hexagon room, you know, that enables people to do all kinds of paranormal things, you know, and it's the hexagon room. And there's 6 different areas that they can go do paranormal things in. So it all kind of blends together. So I like it. But anyway, the graphic artist, we had a team of 3, 4, and then we added in another. We had several, you know, graphic artists who started working on a logo. And they worked together, they worked individually, and they finally ended up with this. And I think it's pretty neat. So yeah, the volunteers now are supporting us in many ways, things that just the 4 of us, you know, Keith, yourself, and Pamela and I, you know, we're very limited in what we can get done in a day. Besides, we keep Keith busy, you know, editing and, you know, and doing all of our video editing, which is a huge job. Plus he does most of our management, you know, controlling things and where we go and how we get there. And he's the mastermind behind most of what we do. And then you and I do videos together. Plus, you know, I have a lot of email to you, to do, and you do too. So we're all pretty busy, and we couldn't get done what we get done if it weren't for these volunteers. So if you have a
That's
mind
very
to be,
true.
yeah, if you have a mind to be one of them, we do need you. You know,
Yeah, they do allow us to free up our time to do some important things such as the global healing. We offer that free. We're now doing that every week. When you sign up on our
mhm,
mailing list at MBT events, you can sign up through the contact form. And we also do an open house for members and enthusiasts of
mhm.
MBT to come and talk to others and like-minded ideas. It's a really nice thing, and global healings happen there too as well. I know we briefly mentioned Tom's Park, and I'm kind of glad you did. Now, some of the audience may not know about that, but Tom's Park was definitely aided by the graphic artists in the volunteer group. And that is, you just gave a quote out today. Tom's Park, for those of you who don't know, it's an easy, fun path to meditation. We were talking a little bit earlier about meditation, and that's a nice kind of entry point to it. It's a very interesting way to get started on meditation that's fun, not too serious.
Yeah. Well, it's offered, as a book, but it's not really a book. It's really shall we say, a training program. It's a process. It's a way of developing your intuitive side of your mind. And the thing that's neat about it is you don't need to learn anything first. There's no prerequisites. You don't have to be a meditator. You don't have to come with any skill set or with any long practice. You just have to read the directions, follow the directions, and then experience. It's just be an experience. And you have to be careful now because there's some wrong turns you could make. But if you read the book carefully and follow it precisely, then you will find things like healing, going out of body, all these paranormal things become really easy. It's not really that hard to do. It's a simple thing. And most people get bogged down in the process of it. In the, what are my, what's the prescription? What's the process I use to get there? And the process themselves is what trips them up. The process in Tom's Park is easy because it's just a daydream. It's just your imagination. You start with your imagination and turn it into an out of body or something that gathers information or whatever. And you don't really need to have read the books first or even understand MBT. I use some MBT language and words in it, but you can understand everything you need to know, even if you're not familiar with what those words are.
And if you're naturally intuitive, Tom, um, I think you'll agree that it's a way to expand into more. If you meditate seriously, you may not be aware of all of the different things that you can do in the paranormal. If you're logically minded and you are very intellectual, you will find that you can lose yourself and develop this intuitive side, which is so very important to have a balanced
yeah.
approach to life. Would you say,
Mhm.
sir?
Yeah, I agree. I think the people who are more intuitive to begin with will find Tom's Park a natural, and it will expand their things that they can do with that intuitive side, rather than just the one or two things they've practiced and learned to do. There's a whole lot of other things that they'll do. And the people that are very logical process types, they may take a little longer. This is not something you just do once and magically you're transported to inside the larger conscious system. You do have to work with it. You have to repeat it. You have to do it again and again. But if you do, and it's a fun thing to do, it's not a thing like, learn to meditate. It's a fun thing. And if you do it and continue with it, in probably your fourth or fifth try, most people will start having successes. And for those who are really hardcore logical process, it'll maybe your 15th or 20th try. But if you just do it and don't worry about what you're doing. Just experience what you're doing without analyzing it and judging it. Just experience it. You will find that this is probably the simplest path that you'll ever find into experiencing the paranormal and generating a strong and accurate and a reliable intuition, which is good for everything, for all creative work and gaining understanding, those aha moments that come out of your intuition. Well, a whole lot more of them will flow once your intuition gets developed. So yeah, that is a neat thing. So, back to what you were talking about a minute ago, these two programs you run, this global healing, that's really become a major event. You have 100 people come to this global healing every time. And when you amass that many people who are using their intent to heal, it becomes a very powerful force. And you've had lots of people who have really benefited from the results that much power, that many people can pull together. So it's quite a thing. There's lots of people there from all walks of life, young and old and rich and poor, and, kind of a really good smattering across all our culture.
The one thing in common they have is that they meditate. There are people from all walks of life, doctors, lawyers, graphic artists, writers. The one thing they have in common is that they have a little bit of a meditation practice, and they understand how powerful that can be. But that isn't even necessary, because what we're talking about is our ability naturally as consciousness to affect one another in a positive way. We're not offering any treatments or guarantees of healing, but many of the healers understand that when they're part of this group, they benefit from this connection. We have had some good results, and that is because you can change the probabilities of things with intent, with powerful intent, as you have many times spoken about.
Mhm.
So it is a wonderful thing, and we do get some wonderful feedback on that.
You also do what you call open houses, don't you? Tell the audience a little bit about
We
that.
do now. The open house is for members to gather together with like-minded people who talk about MBT concepts and work, and just have a safe place to come to where they're not judged, where their ways of thinking are accepted. We've added some extra global healing sessions because of the situations going on in the world. People need comfort, and we send love and healing through ourselves as consciousness. That's what we do.
Yeah. And it's not just healing individuals. We do that, right? You do that, but it's also healing the world, helping the world in general find more effective ways of interacting with each other, more sustainable, more helpful ways of being. And so we know that works. We had what's called the Maharishi effect, where we got a whole bunch of meditators together, and they were able to lower the crime rate, I think, in Washington, D.C., to a statistical significance. And then when they stopped, it went back up again. And then when they did it, it went back down again. And they did that enough that it was clear that they were having an effect on the crime rate in Washington, D.C. You can heal your culture. You can heal humanity. You can work on, in those areas where people are having a lot of strife and a lot of grief. You can help those areas. So it's not just about healing individuals. It's global healing. It's about healing the globe and each other as well.
It fits with your theory of raising the possibility of a calmer, more loving environment.
Right.
We're not here as healers or medical people dealing with things. We are nudging the possibilities, leaving that, addressing that uncertainty within these things,
Right.
which is part of your theory as well, that changes the probabilities to a better outcome. We
Yeah.
as consciousness have that ability naturally. All of us do.
Yeah.
Many of us don't tap into that.
Yeah. Well, no, one of the advantages here is that in those areas and in those situations where you have the most need, where you have a lot of turmoil and you have a lot of confusion, you have a lot of anger and maybe hate and violence, in those areas is where the uncertainty is highest. You have a huge amount of uncertainty in those areas. So this is a place where your intent modifies future probability within the bounds of that natural uncertainty. There's a lot that you can do. Now you think, well, 100 people, what are they going to do, in the whole world? But you do have an effect, and you do change things. And as you work on it, as you do, every week, every couple of times a month at least, right?
It's every week now. It
Every
is.
week,
Yeah.
then that adds up. All of that adds up. So
Yeah.
if you want to be part of the solution and be less a part of the problem, then join Donna in these groups, because it's a really great place to be helpful to other people and to the world in general. And like Donna says, after you're done giving, you feel better. You get something just for the fact of going there and giving and being part of it. You walk away feeling better. You have a positive takeaway from the experience. It's not just you go to give, but in that process of giving, you gain something.
Yeah, that's a surprise to a lot of the members. I'm so glad you brought up the global healing and you're talking about it in the open house, because those are a couple of the things that our wonderful volunteer group has allowed us to do, this spreading of your wonderful work. And I will include in the description the video search tool, how to get in touch with the Volunteer Association, and all of that. So, well, I thank you for this.
Oh, okay. You're welcome. This has been fun. I think this is some news and some information that people really need to know, because we offer these things. But if most of the people don't know about it, then it's not being helpful.
Yeah.
So by us having this little talk and helping other people realize that these tools and these connections that can be made, that's important.
It's really great because we haven't done this before.
No.
We have done little bits of things and advertising Tom's Park and our Advanced Explorers program that's coming up. We have we also have an immersive that's in an audio product. We do those things, but people really do appreciate the free events and the global healings. It is a wonderful space to relax in, to center yourself, and to bring that loving energy out to others that need it. So I'm glad we got to include all of that. While I hope we have sufficiently been gracious enough with our thanks to the volunteer team, there's all of the rest of this too, and we'll include all of that in the description.
Sure.
So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Donna.
I and MBT Events hope you liked this video. We now have well over 1,000 hours of free video on this user-friendly, ad-free YouTube channel. Though these videos are free to our viewers, they represent many thousands of hours in production and editing, and many thousands of dollars invested in video and audio equipment, along with the required computers and software to store and process the raw video into finished products. So far, all of this content has been funded directly out of our own pockets. Be assured, we will always continue to do what we can. It's our life, our purpose, a labor of love that we will continue to pursue as best we can. However, those pockets are not as deep as they used to be. Thus, we are now seeking to augment our resources with support from our viewers. If you find something of significant value in our videos, please consider supporting their production through our newly created Patreon account or through a one-time donation. The links are in the description below. Thank you.